Okay, good evening. This is the East Lyme Water and Sewer Commission. We're in the upper meeting room. It's March 24th, 2026. East Lyme Town Hall. If we could rise. Recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do I hear a motion with respect to the to approve the minutes, regular meeting minutes of January 27th, 2026?
So, second.
Okay. Any discussion? Any corrections?
Got a couple corrections,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Under 2-1 and 2-2,
Yep.
says that I abstained from the vote since I was a member during the December 16th, 2025 public hearing. Should say I was not a member during that time.
Okay, can we make that correct? You got that? Okay, good. Thank you. Any other changes to the minutes? Corrections? Okay, being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain as I recused myself during the linebacker conversation.
So we have the one abstention. So you have two abstentions?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the count. All right, motion carries. Okay, are there any delegations? Anyone that wants to address the Water and Sewer Commission this evening? Any delegations? Delegations? Hearing none, we'll move on to the correspondence log. Let's see. Okay, we have two items to the East Lyme Water and Sewer Commission from the New London WWPCA, notice of meeting cancellation, and the East Lyme Board of Selectmen Waterford from the Waterford Utility Commission notice of meeting cancellation. So that's it for the correspondence. Item number 5 on the agenda is billing, adjustments and disputes, and we do have an item for 5 Black Point Road. Ben, do you want to address?
Yeah.
Word on that?
Yes. Good evening. So this is a 1 in 10 adjustment that we would normally bring before the Water and Sewer Commission because it's a multi-use establishment, has a commercial component and a couple of residential units. So by default, that goes before the Water and Sewer Commission for determining approval of the 1 in 10. So staff did the preliminary work of going through the calculations for the 1 in 10. Mr. Wilson does have all of the data and evidence of repairing the leak and the backup for the invoice for the repair, as well as some vision appraisal information on the type of units and the land that are there so that we can establish that it's a mixed use. Also, he took a bunch of pictures, and I picked one of them out that showed where the leak was, which was in the ground in between, I believe it was Suncraft and the residential units. So you have that. You have the letter and the evidence that it was repaired. You have the copy of the bill, which is about $1,400. And then you also have the backup showing where what the normal water usage was for those periods of time, which is on the leak adjustment spreadsheet that we normally give the commission. And so you can see that this establishment uses normally about 24,000 gallons in the May to November billing cycle. So not a very high water user at all. But with that leak, there was about 71,000 gallons of usage during that period of time. The leak was picked up, and that's had to throw in some fancy graphs to show that the leak was found back in October. And as John said, there was an issue with the communication of the radio. So we went out and fixed it, and then found that there was a leak after that, notified him, and that was, let's see, the notification was written down here on 11/6, and looks like somewhere in mid-December the leak was repaired. I know he had to work a lot to try to find where it was coming from, because I guess it wasn't surfacing anywhere. So that all being said, we went through and looked at the criteria for the 1 in 10 policy that covers mixed-use non-residentials, and unfortunately the threshold for that type of use is high. So what I'm saying is that typically, in order to qualify for a 1 in 10, and again, the commission had set this policy some time ago, that the criteria had to be $1,000 of relief on the sewer and water bill. I did make adjustment on the water and sewer because the water did not enter the sewer system. There's a little bit of a gray area in the 3 or more than 3. Traditionally, we've started using, and it's codified in our newest 1 in 10 adjustment, that if you're over 3 units, or if you're mixed-use, non-residential, and the water did not enter the sewer system, we had not been giving adjustment on that, and we have a lot of precedent for that. But because it was kind of in this tweener situation, I ran the calculation as if we were going to do that, just to give the benefit of the doubt and show the best possible scenario, which saves John about $740, but still falls short of the criteria of the 1 in 10 to allow the adjustment.
Clarify the savings for me?
Yeah.
The difference between the water and sewer?
Yeah, so this is the easiest one to work off of, so I'll go through that. And so the way the 1 in 10 works is we look at the bill, and so we had 71,000 gallons of usage, and I apologize, it is a little bit hard to read because a bunch of copies were made of it. But the normal usage is about 24,000. And so what we essentially do is we take that average, and we take the high usage, and then we split the difference. And so then the user ends up paying just the difference of those two instead of the high bill. And if the sewer wasn't affected, like if the water just entered the ground, and then we would just, what we would just use, and what I did here is we replace the sewer usage with the actual average. So in other words, we're assuming that the average amount of water was still used, so therefore that's going to be the standard same sewer charge. If the water does enter the sewer system, then thanks, Kevin. Then we would not make an adjustment on that, and the reason for that is getting back to a little bit of what we were just talking about. We still have to pay New London for our sewer usage. So even though the water is something that we can control and we can adjust based on our rates, and we eat it a little bit, the sewer charge remains because we still have to pay New London for that same usage. So that results in a savings essentially of $740, and so that bill would be reduced from the $1410 back down to about $740, $741.90. And so that's essentially how we perform those calcs.
And are these facilities now on the meter?
Yeah, and that's what the graphing shows. There was a period of time earlier in the summer where it wasn't communicating, and then we found out that there was, I think, a wire problem. There's a work order in it too here, but we come across this pretty frequently where the radio sits on the outside of the building. Sometimes it gets hit. Sometimes construction happens and it gets relocated or it gets disconnected. So we have to go back out and fix it. So I'm not exactly sure why this one stopped working, but that is obviously part of what we see that happened here. And I know that when we first talked about the changes to the 1 in 10, we were talking about how we had the ability to measure usage much more quickly than we had in the past. And so we were able to catch this one fairly quickly, but because of the fact that the radio wasn't working, it kind of diluted our ability to see that. And so, you know, we essentially had to fall back onto the traditional policy, which is, you know, it was a large bill and we worked to make an adjustment. And this customer has never had a 1 in 10 before, so they qualify for the analysis.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your.
Sure.
Ben, outside of the 741 being less than 1,000,
Yeah.
he's met all the other criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
Even the period of time to make the appeal?
He did, yeah. Yeah, he made the period of time to make the appeal.
Could you just clarify the gray area? You said there was a gray area in terms of criteria.
Yeah, I made the adjustment on the gray area of the fact that even though the water didn't enter the sewer system, I corrected it for that fact. In the past, though, for larger commercial establishments over 3 units and so on, we haven't made that adjustment. We've only made adjustment on the water, regardless of where the water ended up. And I can count on several that we've done that on. So again, I can go back and make that calculation, but it more negatively affects the proposition. So I mean, I could certainly show you what that calculation is, but I suppose, and back to Mr. Zmarka's question, that is the only thing that is somewhat of a nuance in the calculation. You know, if the commission treats this straight up as mixed-use non-residential, it doesn't look at more than 3, then the strictest interpretation would be that we wouldn't make an adjustment on the sewer usage, and so it would only be an adjustment on the water. But there's a little bit of interpretation there, and I use the most optimal way to look at that.
So I promise that I don't have an interest in like going, you know, into detail over a bill of this amount, but I just want to make sure that we're not violating our own regulations here.
Yeah.
On the appeals process, I see that if the application is denied due to eligibility, which it looks like you did on the staff comments.
I made the recommendation to deny, yes.
Okay, so.
It's a little bit different because I can't make that decision on my own. That has to come from the Water and Sewer Commission.
Okay, so and again, I'm just trying to clarify for
Yep.
myself.
Yeah, no, this is
So-
kind of a funky one.
So,
You can quote that.
So there was a disagreement with staff decision, and therefore this customer has appealed within the appropriate timeline. But then, what happens with the agenda item that we had previously set? What I'm stuck on is
Yeah.
the applicant must attend the hearing, or the appeal will be denied.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I mentioned at the time, but the commission decided that it wanted to ignore that, I guess. But yeah, that was a point I made the
Right.
first time when an applicant didn't appear, that
But it wasn't.
that we were
I
violating
kind
our
of thought it
own
was
rules.
automatically denied at that point, but it was just tabled, so that decision is
Yeah,
past us.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
yeah, sure.
The only thing stopping you from making this decision is because of mixed use. If this was a straight up
Correct.
residential, then you can make that and just come to us and say, I did a 1 in 10 adjustment.
I would come to you and tell you I denied it, yeah,
All right.
because it didn't meet the criteria.
All right. Well, so you denied it, which drove him to come
He
and
would
appeal to the commission.
he would have to have come anyway,
Yes.
because I don't have the authority to make a decision on a mixed use.
Yes, but if it was a straight up
Right.
residential, not mixed
Right,
use, you would
yes.
you had the ability just to make the calculation and just inform us that we had a 1 in 10 and
Yep.
staff did the,
Either approved or denied it, exactly. Yep, and I would list the property that was affected, so that you would have the knowledge of it.
I make a motion that we approve this based on the information that was provided to us. He did do a fast job of correcting the problem. It wasn't hung out there for months waiting to get it fixed and stuff like that. And, you know, I know he didn't come to the meeting there, but I mean, we did table it to give him this opportunity, so I think.
Yeah.
I'll second that, and I'll second it primarily too, because our radio would have picked this up a month or two sooner too, so it would have,
Yeah.
you know, so.
They could have prevented the whole 1 in 10
Yes,
in the first
so
place, yeah.
That, you know,
Here you
That
go.
was my question, is
Yeah.
what if that, we didn't have that failure of the radio, of the system,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
he wouldn't know.
Yep.
Are we doing leak alerts now for high usage? Have
Yes.
we made that a part of our? Okay.
Yeah, that's part of our procedure. And
Great.
Joe is doing a really great job of that and
Excellent.
finding things that aren't communicating and things like that. So it is a constant workload though. Just to give the commission a heads up that this isn't like a side gig. This is a full-time thing to stay after these leaks and stay after customers to make sure that it's done, do work orders, do leak investigations, and so on and so forth. So I think the program's working really well, but it certainly is an operational load on us.
It pays dividends, right?
Right. What's that?
It pays dividends.
Um,
Does it work? Is it
We're
just
definitely
in the
using a lot
wall?
less water, but for
Oh,
staff loading, I think it's higher.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
staff,
Yeah.
that's different, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I could give you a breakdown, but it's
All right. I don't think that's
yeah,
relevant to
yeah.
this discussion.
yeah.
Doesn't go to this discussion.
But it's a great program. It's just not
Perfect.
just
Yeah.
turn the key and off you go.
Yeah.
Set it and forget it. I love that. Yeah.
Just to clarify, how common is it that we have communicator issues?
How common? At a scale of common to uncommon.
I'd say it's quite common. Either customers have an issue disconnecting the radio from the side of their house, or there are some locations around town that don't necessarily communicate the best with base stations, so we get losses in signal regularly. We'll get reads for the most part, and when billing period comes around, we'll be able to identify where their water usage is generally at. But if there's gaps in the data, we might have losses, and we might not get the same alerts stating that it's continuous consumption or high usage in a situation like this. But it's more common than not that we have 100% radio reception success.
Yeah, there's only a couple places where we have a hard time with that.
So if I'm understanding this, it was the radio communication that caused the delay in alerting the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once it was identified, Mr. Wilson got right on it and fixed it rapidly.
About 5 weeks. Yep. I think we made a lot of progress in between,
Yeah.
but it does take some time to locate these sometimes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? So the motion as it sits is to grant the relief that's requested. Is that correct? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're opposed? Okay, one opposed. Any abstentions? So the motion carries. Okay.
We'll make the adjustment.
All right. Next is the approval of bills.
Make a motion to approve the bills A and B for tie-in bond for $2,287.50 against TV 102, 79.89, and $1,382.50 against TV 103, 2014.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion on paying the bills?
I'll make sure I stamp them next time.
I was just going to comment on that.
Yep.
Yeah, they've been working with
Oh,
us
geez.
on our water supply plan, so it's coming in dribs and drabs, but as they incur billable hours.
I have a copy.
so
So
Make
could you
progress
just give
on that.
Mr. Murphy the microphone, because he's really hard to hear.
Oh.
Like you would push forward toward him?
Yes, sure.
So when he speaks, you just speak into it? I've had people text me saying
Great.
they can't hear you.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. So, motion to approve the bills has been first seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next is the finance director's report.
Kevin?
He snuck in. I saw him. Okay. He has
We'll have
no
to summon- we'll have to
graphs,
summon
by the
finance
way.
director.
Oh, no
He has
graphs.
no graphs,
No graphs.
and he's not here.
He's not here somewhere.
I just saw.
Yeah, I could start off at least showing you. They're fairly self-explanatory. Okay. Oh, I was gonna let him just kind of 30 seconds delay. Walk him.
All right, you can hold this. Let's go to the podium real quick.
Oh, okay.
Alrighty,
Back to you, Kevin.
I'll just flip this over. So just for the board, I know this is new, the cameras and everything. If you can't hear yourself echo, you're not being picked up. So that's why I just came in and brought the mic over here. And then Ben, just make sure you guys talk into the mic.
Thank
That
you,
wasn't me.
Kevin.
That wasn't me that texted in, by the way. Just, all right, so just flipping over real quick to the water fund. So if we just want to flip to the revenues first. Everyone have the work paper we're looking at here? To date, we've collected just shy of $3.7 million of our 5.2 budgeted. So we are collecting right around. So one thing Ben and I are working on, and kind of trying to mirror what the tax collector does for their collector reports, is break out maybe in the future current year versus prior year collections, so we're able to actually see what our collection rate is for the current billing cycle, right? So when you look at right now, metered service account 49601, we're at $2,849,000. Just shy of $2.85 million collected. That is comprised of current year and some prior year billings. We have not got to the point of breaking that out just yet, but in future, in the next year or so, you'll probably see a current billing line, a prior billing line, and then we'll also probably add on a collector's report at some point. If anyone watches the Board of Finance, you'll notice we do a separate revenue report for the collections, so we can kind of monitor how we're collecting year over year. Anyone have any questions with water revenues? No? Okay. Flipping over. Water expenditures.
I do have a question. I'm sorry. Is there a comparison water revenues versus production? Is that something we track? Because we have a nice graph that
Yeah.
shows me the production.
I could make you something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Divide one by the
Because
other.
that really,
Yeah.
tells you a bigger story.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of fixed costs in the labor and electricity.
Alright.
Well, electricity obviously floats a little bit, but we do use more
What
electricity.
are the variables?
in the
When
wintertime.
is electricity
Yeah.
more expensive?
Yeah, we definitely use more electricity in the wintertime and with our lowest production.
Okay.
That's something that we're working on
So
internally.
cost doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily.
Well, a lot of it's due to electric heat. A lot of the well buildings had electric heat, and we just recently put our well 3 building onto a propane heater, and that's already helping out quite a
Creating
bit.
some savings.
Yeah, but I was just looking at electricity today for February, and it's our lowest production month, yet our highest electrical cost. So that's.
I wish I could help you with Eversource.
Yeah, put in a good word maybe. Yeah,
That would be cool though, because it would help us identify the cost of non-revenue water.
yeah, yep. Yeah, I could definitely work on that a little bit.
I forgot there's water that's non-revenue. I think that's the hydrants, maybe something like
Leaks.
that. And leaks too.
Yeah.
Okay, not just the hydrants.
That's, and that gets back to like the conversation we just had is, is the benefit of the reduction in the production, better than the cost and the labor that I'm going to be requesting tonight.
Like it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, expenditures. Just shy of 50% of expenditures. If you flip to next page, $5.2 million. We do have a balanced budget here in these two departments. So far we spent just shy of $2.6 million, or just shy of 50%. We do have $440,000 of encumbrances. You're like, okay, well we're trending below where we should be right now. We're almost 3/4 way through the year, 62% I think we are. There is some cyclicality to this budget. We do have bond interest and bond principal of just shy of almost $1 million. So there is a little cyclicality to this. So it's kind of hard to say, okay, we're 3/4 way through the year. We should be at 3/4. You have to factor in a couple of those one-off heavy payments.
How about year-over-year expenditures, just on their own? How are they trending? You don't factor anything else in.
So we're at 2.6 million right now. Last year, flip a little forward, I think we spent 3.8 million. So we're probably projecting a smidge higher than last year, if smidge is a word. Smidge, but
technical.
Real technical. I'll go back and run that number, and I'll text it to Ben here in a minute. Okay, so if anyone has any questions on the water side of things, we can flip over to sewer. Sewer is a one-pager. Revenue sewer, we're about 62.5% collected, and we are 50% expended. On the collection side, on the sewer account, we've collected just shy of $1.6 million on a $2.2 million line. So that's on target right now. We're about 63% through the year. And then expenditures is also running a little under at 50%. Again, same thing there. When you're talking 50%, if you look to the bottom of the expenditure line, there's $500,000 sitting between bond principal and capital reserve replacement. So that $500,000 is kind of that's why that 50% is a little lower than the 63% year-to-date expenditure where we expect to be right now. So with that, I don't see any crazy budgetary pressures on this like I do in my general fund. So with that, sorry, Dan.
It's okay.
But with that, these budgets are in pretty good shape. I don't see too many budgetary pressures here. Concurrence from Ben and Joe. You guys agree these are in good shape?
Yeah.
So I believe there was a memo Mitch prepared
Yeah.
to talk about cash balances and things like that. So the Fed funds rate is still north of 3.5%. So we are collecting some interest on this money that's sitting there in the cash accounts. We're just doing a better job monitoring that and making sure we sweep all our cash when we can into an investment vehicle. Try to collect some interest and offset the increases to rates and things like that. So
Can we get a bond report of what our bonds are and where they are in maturity and what the balances are?
yeah, you kind of have that in your.
Yeah, I have that in I think I gave it to you one time, but I can give it to you again and the finance subcommittee has seen
Been
it.
here for about 10 years.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Yeah, I'll get it to
I
you.
have seen it once.
We do have one of our large payments that's about $400,000 a year that's coming off in the next few years, and that is reflected in this graph that you see, where it says debt service. It doesn't. That's what all this is drawing from, though, and actually in your yellow packets, there's a colorized version of this. I know it's very hard to see black and white. It's definitely a graph for color, but. The orange is the debt service, and you can see where that's gonna, around 2031 fiscal year, that's where it starts to come down a little bit. But it's not going anywhere. And then we're gonna be taking on more debt in the magenta. The magenta is all debt. We'll be taking that on.
And so that's built into the rates?
Correct. That's what we'll be proposing tonight, or discussing tonight, and then we'll be officially proposing our rate, and we'll be looking for a rate hearing in April to approve the rates and the budgets.
And that CapEx includes that expenditure, the CapEx line?
The CapEx is a variety of things. It includes the tank painting. Boston Post Road tank was done recently with ARPA money,
Yep.
So basically it was a freebie for us, but that was about $550,000. So we're expecting that again for Roxbury tank, which is due for it. That's probably one of the larger items that we don't have any kind of bonding in place for right now. So we're looking to either, make a decision when we meet with the CapEx committee, which I think we're very close to doing. We want to get the PFAS proposals out, which I'm working on with the state right now. And actually, they're looking, Kevin, for a bond resolution, which I would assume would come from them, but we need to work on that with you.
Okay.
So, a lot more to talk about with CapEx though coming up.
Yeah, but these budgets, like the current year budget, when you look at the water budget, capital reserve of 460, I know there'll be a later discussion in this current, the upcoming budget request. But that, whatever you can put away in some sort of cash capital will directly offset bonds in the future, reduce the interest rate, or reduce the interest you're paying. So we're doing the same thing. If anyone's watching any fund Board of Finance meetings, we're having the same discussion at the town level to reduce our reliance on debt and move over to cash capital to reduce, on the town side, we're paying almost $3 million in interest every year. If that was cash capital, you'd be getting the projects not having to pay that interest and to invest, to investors.
Plus, while we're accruing, we're earning because you're sweeping it into an investment.
Correct,
Yeah.
Right.
correct, yeah. So it's a win-win.
What is that as a percentage of your operating budget?
What, the cash capital?
No, your interest payment on the town side.
Oh, 3-4%? Yeah, it's high.
So we're like what, 20%
That's scary.
for our interest?
Yeah.
We're in a high capital
Yeah.
industry, so,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. I just want to frame that
Yep.
we should start to try to reduce our reliance on private funding.
Yeah.
And that's why we're looking at the SRF option for the PFAS projects.
And just one other piece of this, this really highlighted to me, or became clear when we looked at the depreciation that the auditors and us, we book against the water and sewer funds to the tune of, I think it was either $500,000 or $800,000 a year we're booking for depreciation. If you're not setting that aside, your system is aging by that amount. The accountants are pretty good at determining the life expectancy of these things. And if you're not putting that money aside,
CapEx.
25 years from now when things start breaking,
Things-
it's going to be it's not going to be a pretty picture. So by investing in cash capital and putting this money aside will help offset, bonding.
You mentioned that depreciation on sewer is about $500,000.
Yeah, it's a big number.
Account for that last line, capital replacement reserves, water and sewer, actually almost has depreciation. We didn't have that line 2 years ago.
right, when did we add a depreciation?
2 years ago, we added a line, we went from 100 to 400. So now we're almost meeting our depreciation things. And that's really also helpful on the sewer side because we also, just so you know, have to send money to Waterford and London whenever they have capital projects.
Right.
We're getting to the point now where they're going to start asking for money, but we're setting aside money. We weren't able to do that before we do $1.1 million, but we did that also. This is a good trend, and that's really on the water side too. We're trying to help this capital money so that.
But just to clarify, we're choosing to have a, capital replacement reserve line instead of booking depreciation as an expense line?
No, we still book depreciation. This is, so you don't have to budget for depreciation. It's a different basis of accounting, but what you need to do is kind of say, okay, well, you have to account for it somewhere,
Right.
and you're accounting for it in that capital reserve line.
But not at a 1-to-1 ratio?
Not quite.
Yeah.
That'd be, we're trying to get there.
Right.
We're getting closer.
I don't even know if, I'm not sure than the last time our assets on the water side were looked at that level.
Okay. And they are, I would imagine, they are more fully depreciated than the sewer assets based
They're
on
older.
their age. Okay.
Yeah, the sewer is only 30 years old. Water's, some of these facilities are 50.
What a youngin'.
We're on 50.
That's where the operational crew keeps it
They
going.
keep it going, that's right. We're
What's
managing
the,
it.
what's the life
Yeah.
expectancy on that sewer system, though? 50 years?
It depends on what it is. The piping,
Just say
piping
50.
will last 100 years.
You have
know.
20
It's good
years
stuff.
to replace that whole system before it starts catastrophically,
Yeah. And we, the commission's been doing a really good job of making sure that these projects get funded. Like Niantic was recently upgraded. We have the funding in place to upgrade Patagonia. So all these major stations are getting their upgrades. So we're keeping up with it.
And we do have, Waterford and London are in the same boat,
Yeah.
because they don't have a lot of the capital set aside either. So if they're gonna start asking us for I mean, they're gonna, I mean, that stuff's gonna break and.
They are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
they are.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's just, and we've been kicking this can down the road for 20 years,
Right.
you know, we haven't been doing
Now we're
depreciation and
rattling.
putting money away, you know, so we are now, but that's recent,
Yeah,
that's the last
we're
year.
playing
start,
some
yeah.
catch up,
Yeah,
but
so
it's a good.
Come on.
it's,
Yep.
and this system's worth hundreds of million, I mean, hundreds of millions of
Yeah,
dollars.
it's a pretty
Yeah,
extensive
yeah,
system.
I mean,
Yeah, that's a lot bigger number than the 400,000 we're setting aside.
Yes.
If you do 500,000 for 20 years, what do you got? 10 million bucks?
Yeah.
That system's got to be worth more than 10 million bucks.
yeah, so.
186, just to replace that would be 10 million bucks.
So, yep. So we're trying to start to plan for the future and do a better job of anticipating the larger projects and fit it into a debt model.
Yeah.
You know, so we know if one project, like, you know, we're talking one project's falling off, we know you're able to kind of absorb another project and keep that debt service level relatively flat.
Level.
And do we have, I mean, the system's still, the water system is still not old, but do we have, in the CapEx budget, water, like a water main replacement rate? No, so that's coming too. That's another need that's
Yeah.
not really identified.
We have some transite main that we probably should look at replacing.
Yes, okay.
But no.
That sounds expensive.
Yeah, nothing like that. That's a whole other level.
So that's what I have for my report. Does anyone have any other questions?
Are we good?
Yeah, thanks, it's always great when you're here.
Yeah. If anyone wants, has any questions or wants anything else, you know, I think most of you have my email address. If not, you know, let me know. Mitch or I will get you whatever you guys are looking for.
Great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you in a few minutes here with our next budget.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's right now.
So
So
the next-
segue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought you were just.
You're done.
I mean, it's riveting.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Come on, John.
It's my first water and sewer, man, so I'm a newbie here.
You ready to join?
And any other time, you know, there's been a ton of people back here, you know, fighting this or that or whatever it
There
is.
will be again.
But you all set? I'm all set?
Welcome to stay,
Thank you very
but
much.
you're all set.
You should learn how your municipalities are working.
Appreciate the understanding.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks.
Take care.
See ya.
Okay, so next up is number 8, discussion of the water budget rates
Yep.
for
So
fiscal year 27 and to set a public hearing.
yeah, so these are kind of looped together. We could start by talking about the budget because I know that the budget drives the rates, and your packet is a little jumbled. And that's why I took mine apart. But what you have that we can get to in a minute are the subcommittee meeting minutes that we've been diligently meeting. We've got 3 meetings under our belt. I think we made a lot of progress working on the budget, working on the rates. There's some big changes to the rates that we're proposing, and Dave and Michelle and Roger and Dan and Kevin and Joe and I have really worked a lot on all this stuff and hashed it out. So I'll get into the water budget first. And I think probably, you know, back to this guy. That's why I wanted to make sure you had it in color. I gave you this a couple years ago, and this is still our basic roadmap for how we're going to pay for PFAS, how we're going to pay for these 2 treatment plants that we're going to need at well 6 and at well 4. You'll see that in the magenta. And back to what Kevin was just saying, we could, if we didn't have the PFAS project going on right now, I would have wanted to start working on Plants Dam. It was something that we discovered about 25 years ago that there's a good source of water there. It's actually right across the street from the Rustic practically. It's in that vicinity. There's already water main there. We know that there's a possibility for wells that yield over 500 gallons a minute there. So that project will get pushed out until our debt loading drops a little bit, so that we're not shocking the rates again to try to start that project. And I think it can float a little bit. Ironically, you know, we talked a lot about sewer capacity and sewer moratorium. the difficulty that the sewer department has had on capacity is only led slightly by the sewer department, but the water department is also behind that. So, if we're going to get back into a situation where we upgrade the plant in New London and we allow a large development to take place again, other than, the small ones and twos that are still happening, we're going to need more water. And frankly, New London is not going to have the ability to supply it. New London is a great partner to have when we have times of emergency and when we have water sharing agreements. But just to give you an example, we've budgeted anywhere between 17 and 20 million gallons of water from New London for the entire summer period, right? During that summer period, in the time that I've been here, we've ranged from 60 to 70 million gallons per month, and that's usually 4 or 5 months. So it's a help. And don't forget, we have to send 115% of the water that we make to them. So it's great, but it's not the panacea. So let me get back to this immediate budget. This is the budget that we predicted that we were going to need a 13% rate increase on water to cover the costs that we're going to be seeing with the PFAS projects. And I am talking about them interchangeably because what we're trying to do, as Kevin alluded to, is we're trying to build a fund balance on the water department so that we can actually cover the debt loads when these projects finish. Right now, I'm estimating, based on the engineer's opinion of probable cost, $17 million. That works out roughly to a $1.7 million debt payment in its first year, and then roughly $1 million going forward every year. So that's kind of the backdrop of what we're looking at right now. We're getting close, as I was just mentioned, we're getting close with picking our engineer and moving forward with the design of these plants. That will take some time. We still hope to start construction in the spring. So we'll see if we can maintain that time frame. But assuming that we do, we're going to need this money to be available in our fund balance to pay for these projects when they're completed.
And that project needs to be in service by November 29?
Yeah, 2029, yep.
So
Yep.
a delay in funding could result in a delay in construction, which could result in an EPA safe drinking water violation.
Yeah, exactly, yep. Yeah, they're going to be, and not only are EPA looking at this, but the state is now codifying the PFAS limits because they're worried about what changes that the EPA might bring. So whatever happens at the EPA, the state is looking to codify those limits. So so I'll keep moving forward. The budget is a 12.2% increase, but I'll give you a very specific caveat that it's 6.7% on operating, and the rest is just the increase in fund balance that we're trying to reserve as a capital reserve line. So I'll actually kind of start from the bottom and go back up. But you'll see that right this year we had $460,000 that we were putting into capital reserve. Next year that goes up by about $300,000. And so that's really the largest mover that you're seeing in this budget. Roughly everything else is staying similar. We actually are having a little bit of reduction in electricity because of the work that we did at Brybrook to get off of electric heat. We're going to do that at Well 5 as well this year, so that should also help. But the other large movers of the budget expenses are the maintenance of wells, which is still every year, it surprises me. Every year, we have a specific well driller that specializes in this work. They've been doing it for us for decades. They're very familiar with our system, but the cost of that work keeps rising to the tune of almost $40,000 per location. And so we're doing that at 3, sometimes 4 wells a year. And typically it will range on a given year. So that just right off the bat, you figure about $160,000 will go to redeveloping the wells. We have tough water quality here. I think that's something the commission's always known about. We have high iron and manganese. We get it out of the system, but it does clog up the pumps, so the pumps then need to be cleaned out. The well needs to be rehabilitated, so you're talking about $40,000 to rehabilitate the well, and then you're talking Basically, my pump rebuilder is telling me it's, you know, about 80% of the cost to rebuild a pump versus buying a new one. So it's about 10 grand for a pump. The motors are about 10 grand. We just had to replace 2 motors this year, or have them rewound for 10 grand, I should say. So the costs on the wells are still very high. But what we're allowing ourselves to do is also, you know, we're keeping these wells in really good condition, and we're prolonging the need to go to something like plant stand because of where our production is at right now. And something that we also discovered this year, in that we actually did a really investigative work, invasive work at well 3A, which is one of our oldest wells. It's actually been in service since the early 80s. That well had seen decreasing yields. It was normally it could do about 1,000 gallons a minute when it was originally drilled, and now it's starting to dwindle down, but it's still meeting its regulation permitted diversion. So I think we can push that out for a few more years before we need to drill a new well at 3A. So that's where that number comes at, 219 for the cost of doing that. The other big movers of this budget are it was a 10.4, I think, % increase in health insurance. So that the health insurance costs are continuing to rise. But the other thing that I alluded to before that I'm looking to do is I'm looking to hire another distribution operator. And the reason for that is we actually already made that move last year. We took an operator who left from water treatment, and we didn't fill that position. We filled the position for the distribution operator instead. So the distribution department had actually already been filled and covered. And so the level of service that you're seeing, you know, where we're actually able to almost flush all the hydrants, and we're actually doing hydrant maintenance now, and we're doing valve turning now. We're doing a lot of things in the system that we need to do, but we had to forego having a treatment operator for about 9 months. Then we had an issue with one of our other treatment operators, so you know we went from 3 to 2, and then we had one go out on medical leave for about 4 months, and at that point we had to bring back someone off distribution to go back into the wells. So that person's now back. We think we're going to be moving forward in a good way, but even with the 2 operators, we had a really hard time trying to keep up with everything that was in demand in the treatment side of things. So distribution benefited, treatment fell back. I'm trying to right the ship a little bit, and I'm asking for a distribution operator to fill that gap in this budget.
How many certified water even if the person was moved from treatment to distribution, and regardless of where they're currently employed,
Yeah.
how many of our personnel are certified
Treatment? 2, and I'm one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Double task.
it's a need. Yeah.
And at what level is that other person?
He's a 3.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the level of the system. Yeah, he's the
Okay.
chief operator.
And
He's
what
been
about
here for a long time. Great
distribution,
job, Mark Alfieri.
certified distribution.
We have a number of certified distribution operators. Yeah, that, and they're not super high level. I mean, Pat Morris, our foreman, has a 3. Al, I believe, has a 3. So some of the senior guys, but other than that, our distribution operators need to get their classifications as well. So that's something that a couple of them are working on right now. Joe's actually working on it right now too. And so we just think it's good to have everyone licensed as much as possible, and
100%.
allows us to backfill if we need to, and have the proper oversight.
Jen, was there a big strain with the big storm that we had and clearing up all the hydrants?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's
That is huge.
fortunately, knock on wood, we didn't have a lot of main breaks during that period of time, because you know it's kind of funny. It's like our main breaks seem to happen, which I guess is not really that remarkable, that as we get into the freezing cycle, that's when we'll get our first set of breaks. And then, you know, we may get a couple during the really cold period of the winter, and then we'll start to see them again as the ground starts to thaw out. Yeah, the winter was definitely big this year in affecting our operations. You know, typically we only have to go out and shovel a few hydrants here and there, but this year, Public Works had to do the lion's share of the work. Going out and using our backhoe and using our skid steer and going out and bringing equipment out to to remove all the snow. Because obviously they're on the side of the road, they're going to be piled up. So it's, you know, you're not getting a foot and a half of snow, you got 3-4 feet of snow on them. So that was a big effort.
Right as the storms happened, we kind of got right as the storms happened, we got a team, and the fire department helped too, and water department and public works. So everyone kind of worked on it, just because there was too many of them to do for one department to do.
Ben, do you
Yeah.
feel that the budget increase proposal represents the fulfillment of your needs? So in my short tenure here,
Yeah.
I've seen the operations team be able to contribute towards capital projects
Yeah.
significantly
Yeah.
in the management and execution phase.
Yeah.
Are are you thinking you'll be staffed appropriately to do that with these major projects with the PFAS and the?
Yeah, so the sorry you bring up the PFAS project because I did some of the design work to get the piping out of the building and things like that, just to make it easier for the contractor later. And it was good experience for our guys, but we didn't get a chance to do a lot of it yet, so it's still in the execution phase, if you want to call it. But yeah, that would be the goal, is to get back to that kind of model, which does save us money in the end, and it gives us more experienced workforce to have the knowledge of how to work on the equipment and that sort of thing. So yeah, I would definitely want to continue doing that. And we've done that on the water side. We upgraded Sleepy Hollow Booster Pump Station this year. We upgraded Gene Drive Booster Pump Station, all in-house. We took out all of the old galvanized piping. We have a Pro Press. We can Pro Press everything up to 3-inch. You know, so they're not major stations,
No,
but we put in the pumps.
You're doing a lot of work.
We do
Good
all the
work.
work. We have our integrator come in and give us a price for a control panel, and then we have a local contractor help us with the wiring. But yeah, we get a product that works really well for us, and the guys have the knowledge and experience that they get from that.
And then the segue to my second question is, how do we message this? So
How do we what?
How do we message this to our ratepayers?
Oh, yeah.
These are our customers.
Yeah, that's
right?
something we need to do better on.
Is this a value add for them, this rate create? I know it sounds silly, right,
Yeah.
to say it like that, but
It
how
is,
do
yeah.
we message it?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah, we need to articulate that more, because we are doing a lot of things in-house that traditionally you would send out an engineer to go do. You'd have a design, you'd have, you know, the bidding phase, and you know, we're circumventing a lot of those things by doing the design in-house, and then we have the talent to perform the work.
And then the messaging is overall, it's about a significant, you know, you're talking 14%, let's call it,
Yeah,
rounding error,
yeah.
right?
The good and the bad news about that is that we are absolutely not unique at all in the country. Aging infrastructure, climate change, cybersecurity, and emerging contaminants like water rates are
It's a
going
challenge.
up double digits every year, everywhere. Not that any, you know,
No,
not
but
that
the
that makes it,
messaging-
you
I
feel
mean,
better
that
about your
doesn't
own
make
bill.
the messaging any softer, right?
But
that we're
but
doing
those
it
thi-
smartly.
yes, and those things are external forces driving the need. You
Yeah.
know.
That you're putting a plan together
Yeah.
that manages it smartly.
Yeah, and I mean, back to the cybersecurity too, we recently just upgraded our water SCADA system to a newer, to BT SCADA. We had been operating on a 25-year-old SciTech system. So really happy that we're able to do that work. And again, you know, it's tough to get our integrator when we want him all the time. He drives 4 hours, and we even have a little box that he can plug into, that he can troubleshoot things remotely for us. But we have a huge savings in doing those things. But I'm glad you bring that up, because I want to put together a project for work with DPH. There's 80% match on cybersecurity and building security that we want to work on in this
And
coming years.
we think we're not like a target, right? But the reality is that
Everyone
like
is.
Yeah.
everyone is,
Yeah.
and specifically public infrastructure is a huge cybersecurity target.
Yeah.
Think it would be disruptive to the whole community, you know?
Ken, you mentioned on the public messaging, and it's something we can put together. You know, it's a $17 million project that we have to do on a $5 million budget. We can get that stuff out. As some people see on the public works side, we've been getting a lot more social media out and then put stuff on the website. On the for the water side, when we get into the sewer side, I don't know if any of you guys probably see social media, but now they're all opining on our sewer moratorium, and we've already talked about getting a statement out from us to get ahead of the message. So yes, we need to message it, but it's not like we're just throwing in 12%, as he just said. We're about to pay for a $17 million project that we did not create. We have to deal with the EPA, so as Michelle's saying, so that is our message, and we should be getting that out. We can get that out not only on the website, but on some of the social media platforms. And one other thing on the on Ben's request, or as he mentioned for the extra distribution, one thing that you guys might not always be aware of, but the reason why they were able to, water department was able to do it is a lot of times sewer backfilled to help water for years. And that's why sewer has too much to deal with on their side. They can't backfill. So it's like we're not just asking for this extra person. They always were getting one from sewer, and we have to stop doing that because it's not fair to the sewer customers. It's because there are some. So this is pretty essential to get that extra distribution once the sewer can also do their stuff and not have to worry that, you know, therefore people, one of them has to that day work for water because water can't keep up because there's too much to do. So that's a very viable thing that people might not be aware of, but we're hearing it from our guys too that finally the sewer guys can actually maintain the sewer pump stations and not have to worry about backfilling water. And that's, so we're correcting a problem that's been long been going, but we're getting in a better position to do it.
So if I may, I wanted to then turn into discussing the rates, which, you know, we identified the overall rate increase, you know, in terms of revenue that we're looking to increase by the coming year. But the way that we do that is vastly different than how we've done it before. And what we're also trying to really encourage, which, you know, up until recently, we didn't even really have a magnitude of understanding of the problem of lawn irrigation and how much that's affecting our system in the summertime. Chairman Cunningham, Joe and I were just in negotiations with the DEP over our use of Bride Lake, and part of that cooperative agreement that came out of that was that we would set rates for irrigation to try to curtail the usage, and either curtail the usage effectively, and we'll find out how elastic it really is, or we're going to be building capital fund to build things like plant stamps so that we have the supply that we need in the summertime. And so to segue into that, I think I'll start with this graph here. It's a fairly simple looking graph, but it breaks out the different usage tiers for residential water customers that we're proposing. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself in saying that we are looking at differentiating residential water customers from non-residential water customers. Because currently we have an increasing rate structure that everyone follows, right? What this proposed rate increase and rate sheet will do is break out the residentials from non-residentials. And what I mean by a non-residential is anybody that's 3 units or more, like Mr. Wilson, would be in this non-residential category. And the reason that we felt that we had to do this was we kind of came to a crossroads, and you know, we have talking points that are included in here that go into detail as well, that if we're trying to go after, or I should say go after, but if we're trying to curtail irrigation, and we're trying to identify what that is, we have only a few options. We can make it mandatory. We can go around and we can try to enforce this and chase people down and find out what their usage is, and make them have mandatory deduct meters so we can track them. That seemed like that was a little bit draconian and difficult to implement. And so the other option was, well, we have identified that there's a very small number of customers in the summertime that use a lion's share of the water. And that's what this graph is showing you. That, you know, and I have the numbers in front of me. It's kind of messy to look at, so I didn't give it to you guys. but 22% of our users use less than 10,000 gallons in a given 6-month period. And this is the summer usage, which is always our highest usage period. You're not going to see lawn irrigation in the wintertime. But yet, only about, I think, 4% of that actually is the water that's used. So you have this one end of, you know, fixed income people using less than 10,000 gallons in a 6-month period of time. That's really not a lot of water. You're talking like, what, 1,500 gallons of water a month. Versus the other end of the spectrum, where you actually have 92. So we have 6,300 water connections for residentials. 92 of them use, let's see, I don't have that here, but it looks like about 27% of the water. So you immediately acknowledge the fact that if you're using over 80,000 gallons of water in a 6-month period, you're absolutely irrigating with your lawn. So we can see that. We can see that in the usage. We can see that in our rates. And then we can look back at the production in the winter time versus the summertime. Whereas, you know, this past February, we only produced about 39 million gallons in that month. You know, go into the summertime and we're anywhere between 60 to 70. You know, we were even bumping up into the mid-70s a couple years back.
Plus purchase.
Plus we have to purchase the water from New London at our own retail rate. So keep that in mind, and we have to give the water to New London. So, you know, we've got a lot of things that are working against us when it comes to lawn irrigation, and that's why we felt like we had to make this transition to looking at lawn irrigation as something that we're still going to condone, and we're still going to, you know, obviously, if you want to pay for it, have your lawn looking beautiful, that's your prerogative, but we need to create some sort of capital fund to be able to start building more supply. And it didn't seem like it made a lot of sense to hit the people that are using less than 10,000 gallons in a 6-month period with that bill. It's the customers that are spraying their lawns, and, you know, some of these customers are using 400,000 gallons of water in a 6-month period. So the 80 is the start, but, you know, if I gave you the graph of what they're using, 80 is actually the smaller part of that, and it's hundreds, 200s, 300,000 gallons of water for a single family house.
How many of them are, how many of the 92 are in the water sewer area?
So that's a great question, and I'm glad you brought that up, because very few of them are in the sewer area.
Okay.
And so that was exactly why this structure had to be structured the way that it did, because we knew that if we were just to try to put them into some sort of like residential irrigation deduct rate, they wouldn't care, because they're not paying sewer anyway. So, you know, the largest portion of the bill is typically the sewer. It's obviously harder to, I love to say it's hard to make dirty water clean.
It's free water,
Yeah,
actually,
you know?
if they're irrigating
Yeah,
their lawn
I mean,
and
that-
we're
that's a-
collecting a sewer
That's
bill.
a great
okay,
concept, you
man?
know, put a backflow preventer on it, you know, let it go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was also part of the calculus of why we chose to go down this road, was that, you know, you have certain areas that are sewered that would respond well to a sewer deduct meter system. So that's kind of the second part of this whole rate structure, is that we do have a irrigation rate that will allow you to actually save money on your water and sewer bill if you're a water
If
and
you
sewer
are
customer.
a water
Right,
and
because
sewer
it deducts off your sewer, so you're not paying
Okay.
sewer, but you're paying the water rate. The other thing that it does, and yeah, there it is, 1936. We're actually lowering the rate too, because we wanted to make it more attractive for people to actually go into the deduct system. And what that does is it unfortunately does take revenue away from sewer department, but it does put the revenue in the water department where it really belongs, which is in order to get more supply available, or to curtail usage, you know, one or the other. We're trying to either enhance conservation, and if that fails, then we need to buy more supply, and we need to increase our capital funding to do that.
Essentially, Ken, when we went through this, it was really an exercise in appropriate cost allocation.
Yeah.
A very small amount of users are responsible for a high level of cost that they weren't necessarily contributing equitably to.
We tried the best we could to set an irrigation rate that there is an irrigation rate now. Unfortunately, the irrigation rate is higher. It's better for someone not to go on the irrigation rate and to just take the existing rates. So what we're proposing here, if you add up the irrigation rate and the top rate, they're paying more than so we're actually driving them to sub-meter, which is what we want them to do. And the other thing is, the benefit of them sub-metering is they're gonna pay a lower rate on their domestic, which is what we want, and pay a higher rate, and if they don't like that, and they come to this board, then turn your irrigation system down. Because that's your choice to make your green lawn, but it's our business to give them potable water, not water for their yard.
Find
So
your own way to
this
supply
is
it.
a necessary, we met with the, this finance subcommittee, and this is the way to do it, and the numbers now work, so.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, we're having a treatment pile waiting on us.
And all your certified operators are at this
What
table?
area?
Two out of three.
So, can I keep?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
just so we
the,
can keep going on. So he has, what Ben put together and we all worked on is that there's residential rates that he broke down, and as you said, another thing is you can see in the rates is that lowest tier, the 0 to 10,000, only has only 5%, it's not a thing, but that's 22%, and that's a lot of, fixed income people, so with that, and if they can strive to get that 10, then 5 is very reasonable for everything that's going on. And then the other thing is, now that he has a non-residential rate, you're not penalizing like the master meters or the restaurants or stuff like that. I mean, by penalizing is the first threshold goes to up to 100,000. So when you get up to over 2 million, you're talking like Sophie Nobles and Brybrook rehabs and the prisons. That's when it starts getting up there. But this just seems to be a much more equitable way to distribute the funds to help pay the $17 million of the projects. But your original comment about, we do have to get the messaging out, and I'm sure there'll be people that aren't overly happy with their bills, but it's a necessary evil, so how are we doing the best we can to be as fair as possible is what we're doing. And when we get, I'll go over the sewer budget a little bit, but the sewer budget actually, or she said, the sewer rates are mirroring these water rates so that it's not confusing to the customer. It's the same tiers and everything like that. So just everyone looks at it when they look at the water rate, they're going to see the sewer rates or so. Hopefully.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we're all set too, by the way.
And that's the transition rate. The next step for us is the public hearing.
Yeah. So this is just discussion.
Right. So we want to know our messaging for that public hearing. And explain to our customers.
I think we talked about developing a PowerPoint for this to go through, since this is so difficult to do.
Yeah, and so this is a little bit of like a sounding board thing of, what might be the weaknesses in some of the discussion that we could highlight and make sure that are more sussed out for people to understand. I mean, you guys are immersed in it and you understand all the nuances, but there's a lot going on with this rate structure that we want to make sure people understand. So, so we covered that. The one takeaway I did want to talk about was that because we have the 0 to 10,000 gallon structure, which is new, we're only going to be increasing that by 5%. So that was something that we had seen when we were collecting our bills this year, was that a lot of people are on fixed incomes, living by themselves, don't use a lot of water, they're usually retired. We were trying to keep that rate as low as possible, but obviously there's an effect on the other rates as well. So we did that, I think, successfully. 13% is what the typical usage rate would be for most of your customers that are in this bracket right here. Between these two, these are like 90% of your customers in your residentials. So I think you'll see a relatively modest increase. The 40 to 80,000 is kind of a middling rate where you're doing a little bit of irrigation, or you could just have a large family. But we're trying to keep that in check, but it's a little bit higher of an increase. And then the 80,000 and up is a 19% increase, and that's really where we're trying to be aggressive with that rate structure. we're trying to drive home the message that if you want to irrigate, it's totally up to you. You can do that. In a lot of these areas, a lot of those 92 customers are not in a sewer service area anyway, so this is their only bill. Not that it should be higher by design, but by the fact that they're using so much water. I mean, it's just incredible how much water some of these residences are using. And their lawns look great, which is good, but we need to be able to pay for that. So you kind of see a similar.
That's not the message.
Yeah, so it's a
Yes,
similar
that's
structure. I have to work on that. On the non-residential side, and again, the reason why we broke it out this way was because we didn't want to hurt the businesses, the restaurants that are using a lot of water, because that's part of their business. So we increased that structure from, it used to be 0 to 40, it was 1, and then you had the higher up to 150 was the other. Everything is covered in 100,000, and that is the vast majority of those customers as well. We have 457 non-residential customers. 313 would be covered in that first tier. 128 would be covered in the next tier. So between the two, again, you have about 90% of your customers that are going to be in those two modest tiers. The other two are going to be in higher brackets.
But the 2 million and over are single digits, right?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
I believe it's the DOC is one of them, and maybe the car wash. Yeah, it could be Brybrook Rehab. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to cover.
Can I just mention two other, on the water rates, we also are changing, and just so you guys are aware, we get a lot of questions when people say, what's the meter maintenance fee? We took out the word maintenance, because we paid, $275 for a meter, $250, $275 for radio. We had to replace at some point, we still think, so we just took the maintenance. It might be a little semantics, but it's like one of the biggest questions we get, so. And then the other is, we also eliminated the first 3,500 gallons. It got very confusing that the first 3,500 gallons didn't include, so if you were a 40,000 tier, you subtract the 3,500, it was 37,005. We just got rid of the 3,500. I'm just making you guys aware of that, so if anyone asks you a question, it's straight 0 to 10,000, 10,000, 40,000, not 3,500 to 40. It just, the 3,500 just confused the customers. So.
And do you want to talk about the access, customer access?
You can. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we're both sewer and water have budgeted is to try to move forward. Ben and I are working to move forward with a customer portal, because now people need to be cognizant of these bills because they cost money. That we're getting to a portal where you can check your own. Any member, any customer can check their own water usage, so they can see it. They don't have to call us up and ask. We get a lot of time people are. And that way, it kind of puts it on the customer to check to see if they have leaks and all this other stuff. So there is a cost to doing that, but that's something that I think going inside with these rate increases, allowing customers to really control their own destiny as far as looking at their bill, we thought was a necessity. So it's in the not only the water but the sewer budget to pay for that.
And then there was one more spreadsheet that we didn't cover, but it goes back a little bit to what Ken and I were talking about. With the deduct system, this spreadsheet that's titled Comparable Customer Bills looks at different usage. One is a 75,000 gallon customer, another is a 100,000 gallon customer. And in both cases, and granted this is assuming they're on water and sewer, this could be like somebody up in the orchards, for instance. They are going to see a savings by going to the sewer deduct system. There are some caveats in this. There's an assumption that about 30,000 gallons of it is actual domestic, whereas the rest would be irrigation. So that could change on a case-by-case basis, obviously, and it's kind of difficult for us to predict, how much of water you're using for domestic versus your irrigation. But I think it drives the point home that we want to incentivize this so that customers will see a savings on their sewer bill, and yet we'll also be better able to quantify the irrigation usage.
You should be able to estimate that through just
So
the track
that-
record of what they're using and winter versus summer.
Yeah, and that's what we do, and so that's what that is backed into. But it's not completely perfect in that regard
It's
either.
not perfect, but it would
It's a good
at least
estimate.
give you a starting point.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that we've run that analysis before.
So just to clarify, somebody could be a residential user in the classic sense, single-family home.
Yeah.
But they have an irrigation system and they're on sewer. They could opt into this sewer deduct rate, even
Yes.
though that's listed as a under the non-residential.
Yeah, I
charges
could
on
I
it.
could make that a little bit better so that you can see a distinction there. But the point we were trying to drive home was that it's mandatory for non-residentials, and it's much easier to track the non-residentials because there's only a handful of them that do irrigate. But it's an optional program for residential. So yeah, we could improve the wording on that. Does it kind of say that in here?
Maybe
It
just
says all non-residentials and new construction residentials are required to install irrigation meter for hard pipe irrigation or dust control systems.
I think
But,
it's
I
just
could
a
make it-
spacing thing
Yeah,
or
it
like
could be
a
a spacing
box.
thing. Yeah, could make a box, something like that. Box it out. Yeah.
The other thing when you get into this, you gotta have a way of finding out who's dumping sump pumps into the sewer.
Yeah, that is definitely, and that's,
That's part of the.
we have work on the I&I project, that's something that we're working on now. And we just received the meters for that, we still have to install them. And the meters that we're doing for that are for sewer pump stations, because most of our sewer pump stations don't have flow meters. So enable for us to really start to dive into finding out where the high usage is occurring, we need to be able to put meters on the stations. And so that work is ongoing.
maybe just in the, where you have, say, non-residential usage charges and you have the, in parentheses, the comment, maybe you could expand on that
Mm-hmm.
and let it be known that it could be, that the sewer deduct, lawn irrigation meter rate, that would be an option for residential customers. I mean, maybe you can just put something in there.
Okay. Yeah.
Could I move that we set a public hearing for these water rates as proposed?
Do I hear a second?
If you want to do it at like 6:30, sometimes we do that, or the next scheduled meeting, which will be April 28th.
Yeah, so I move that we we present at public hearing these water rates as proposed on Tuesday, April 28th, 2026, at East Lyme Town Hall, 108 Pennsylvania Ave, at 6:30 p.m.
I'll second that.
Okay. First, seconded. Any additional discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question, Ben. You and Ken and Michelle had all spoken about how we're going to present this to the public and having a presentation and everything. And one of the things on your issues with the rate structure thing moving forward, you wanted to hold an informational session prior to the public hearing.
Yeah.
You still want to do that? Because
Um,
then you're looking at a special, or
Yeah.
or you're going to be throwing this at everybody the same night as the public hearing.
Yeah, so originally, this meeting would have been that informational, because we would have had a chance to talk
Right.
at the February meeting. But we could still do something like that if the commission sees the value in doing that. We were certainly going to put something on, obviously, public hearing always has its normal notification, but it doesn't really get a lot of people these days. So we were going to put it on the website. We do have a Facebook now that we work with Public Works, and so they'll share it. And then East Lyme Community Forum will share it to them as well, so we'll get the word out that we'll be doing that as well. But yeah, if the commission feels like they want to do a special informational before the hearing, we could certainly do that as well.
I mean,
An informational meeting, give any more attention or any input attendees than a
Yeah,
public hearing?
yeah, I don't know.
As I say, I just bring it up because it was on your
It was something we
suggestion,
talked
or-
about. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm glad you brought it up because it was something that we originally wanted to try to do. But it being timing the way it is, it does seem like we're getting a lot of input from people from the Facebook posts that we're putting out. I actually thought we'd get some people tonight, but
Do we have a direct reach avenue to our water and sewer customers?
not unless
Oh,
it's through
really?
the mail. No, we don't have anything that sophisticated.
We will when we have the customer portal.
Yeah,
Come on,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
it, exactly.
Yeah, we're
Like-
working on doing that. Yeah, exactly.
The customer portal is a plus and minus too, because Eversource, we have a lot of customer portals. They have to be accurate.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
So-
It's going to be a rollout period too. Like we want to, we're still using so we have a program called Analytics, and that's what a lot of these graphs came out of. And so there's going to be some overlap, and yeah, it's going to take us a little while to get that going, but that is the goal.
Could we get something on the main page of the town website?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if we had that, and here we are, we have a meeting tonight, we had an agenda, I don't see a lot of people here.
No, I agree.
And we would start the public hearing with your presentation.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
A more organized, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's how we would do that. And
I think
then,
it's probably more
Maybe
efficient
we
use.
could do a mail-in and.
It's
and
expensive,
take
though.
Mailing's expensive.
I
mean, you
mean,
can do it.
it's $5,000.
You gotta come back and adjust these rates. if
Yeah.
you
They're not even gonna read
Yeah.
it, they're gonna rip it
the-
up.
That's a
So
hundred.
they go $1 for a
Yeah.
stamp.
Recycle bin.
Recycle bin, right away, not even open, too.
Yeah.
Would there be the
Unfortunately.
option that, you know, have the public hearings,
Yeah, there we go.
you know, discussed, but that if we could see a need to continue the public hearing and, you know, and
yeah.
continue it to another meeting.
Yeah, we could always continue it. Yeah.
Would there be any
It would-
issues with if we
Well,
wanted
it pushes the rates.
Yeah, push the rates out.
You know, but
Revenue.
that's- if that's-
Yeah, your prison bill will they'll get one more freebie out of it, but
We could advertise it on the electric sign up there.
We can start, we
I
can
like
start
that
the next
idea.
2 weeks, get,
Yeah.
like, if we start
Come on,
hitting
that's-
social media live.
Come on in.
tell
We
us
have a
about
public
the
hearing
website.
about your
I
water
think
and
people get these
sewer.
radios get out here that night, they just need to hear the message.
Right, yeah.
I'm sure they're gonna say we don't wanna pay more, but I'm not sure what Ben and I are saying that, I mean,
It's
you have to
gonna
pay
be
the
any
people
different.
project.
yeah.
I'm not sure how else we're gonna do it.
And I mean, I guess I hate to say it in this way, but I'm going to anyway. The most affected customers are the 92 customers that are at the top of this list.
Yeah.
Right.
The
They
others are,
decide to come.
yeah, the others are
Yeah.
really not affected all that much. I mean, across the board, it is a double-digit rate increase at the end of the day, and that is certainly something that we have to advertise. It's not something that we want to do, but
Yeah, I think we have a cogent presentation, something that people can wrap their head around the night of the public hearing.
yeah,
We get it out on the electric billboards that we have, that, you know, on the 28th, there's gonna be public hearing, water rates.
yeah.
Hopefully that'll attract enough interest, and we'll have something on the webpage for the town.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully enough, you know, the people that are interested, they'll have an opportunity to show up and hear a little bit more about it and give us feedback before we vote.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. And we are putting these on air now, and they're recorded on YouTube, so
Yeah, so,
hopefully that helps too.
right,
Yeah,
yep.
great. Okay. Did we vote on
Not yet.
the? Yeah, okay.
Just water.
You didn't vote on the public hearing yet?
No.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor of the public hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. So that's 4/28/2026 at 6:30. Right here. Okay.
Can we double up that motion for the sewer? Is there anything in particularly interesting about the sewer budget that we need to cover?
I'll be very quick.
All right.
Yeah, we should at least touch on it.
Message well
I'm
received.
just saying.
I have a question related to the water irrigation issue, but wasn't specific to rates. But
Have operating report.
but I saw, and we did not have our meeting last month because of the weather, and I saw that you had made a presentation before the Board of Selectmen regarding concerns with a capital project for Parks and Rec to expand irrigation for the athletic fields between the middle school and
Yeah.
Lily Bee. And I didn't know what the status of that was and how that plays into our whole
So
irrigation.
Right.
I'm on the CIP committee, I'm the chair.
Mhm.
It's still there, but the possibility to irrigate the field, but now we're aware that they're not gonna do what they think they're gonna do. So long as it works with the water department, and, because one of the possibilities is they take the water from us, or that we meter what they're taking and they keep it to certain levels, but they're just not gonna, just take as much as they want from the aquifer without, and we're shutting off well 6 with all our well production, and they're irrigating all the fields. So it's a stay tuned, but nothing is gonna happen with that project until it's fleshed out through the water department and it's acceptable to the water department, because it impacts the water department in the town.
And what, I mean, now that well is not our well, that's a,
Well, that well doesn't work. They don't have a well down there ever since well 1A and 6 project. They've
Okay,
been
so
they've been
we-
drawing water. You remember the old Little League
yeah,
years?
because we
They-
abandoned the well from that went into the pond, right? That was kind
Yeah.
of sucked out of that aquifer right there.
Well, they
right?
still suck water out of the aquifer out of the river for the Little League fields. This project was to irrigate the youth football field and then the field between the two fields.
Yep.
Because they haven't been irrigated since the well 1A and 6 project,
Okay.
because that well was shut down.
All right.
Parks
So
and
I
Rec
thought they were-
suggested a
I thought
project.
that- I just thought that we were still using that well, so I'm wrong. Okay.
No, so Parks and Rec proposed to suck more water out of the river to irrigate that stuff, and I said, well, you need to talk to the water department just to make sure everything's copacetic, and that's when it was like, there was no like metering of how much water they were taking, and it was like, you can't do that, I mean,
No,
so,
that was just when they took it apart, it was just a straight pump.
yeah, but there's no like amount, there's no meter of like how much water, so to answer your question, it's not gonna happen until we figure that out. The money's still there, but it's not, nothing's moving forward until it's not gonna impact the water department.
So the money's in the capital plan
For now,
for now.
I thought it was removed though.
It's-
No, capital.
it's still there,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, all right, I thought we had.
We're keeping it as a placeholder.
Yeah, we don't,
Placeholder now.
we don't know what it's gonna cost if the decision is made to connect.
Right.
So we're trying to understand that.
And then there's, but we need to have a clear understanding on the impact on the river, the stream, and how that
In our
affects the
facilities,
aquifer.
yeah.
And without that understanding and conversation, we really can't let them move forward with it. There has to be some control on it.
Yeah, I think this will work out well for everybody.
Yeah.
We're-
It'll be figured out, but
Yeah.
it isn't gonna be a free-for-all. It can't be.
So sewer, Reader's Digest version. You have a budget in front of you. It's up $176,000, 5.6%. 88% of that is 2 lines. What we send in London Waterford is 135,734, and the other one is the outside services. 10,000 of that is for the customer portal, and 10,000 is because Kevin wanted me to put in $10,000 for sewer assessment collection. So, as I said, 88% of any of the increase is for 2 lines that really, one helps the customers and the other sends the money to London. So, other than that, very minimal. But we still have the 400,000 capital reserve, which is close to what our depreciation. So, what does that do then to rates? One thing that I think Ken mentioned in observation, but we do have to take into account that with this whole thing, we're driving people to take submeter so that the irrigators are not going to be giving free money to sewer, which is the exact right thing to do. The money's going to water, but sewer is going to. So I did take that into account in revenue projections of less revenue. So there is a sheet that shows all the different years of rates, and I have the same structure of the rates as far as Ben had included for water for the residential, non-residential, in the same groupings. In the first grouping of residential, which very similar to what Ben had mentioned on the water side, is probably about 30% of the customers are 10,000 and less. We're keeping the 3.5%, which, you know, is still not great, but it's you know, doable. And then 5% pretty much across the board. Once you start getting up into those higher amounts, that's when, even though it looks like the residential above 80,000, an increase of 10, that's from the base rate. But when those people start getting up into higher levels, the sewer rate goes up anyways. We used to have some crazy, our rates used to say, the first rate structure was up to 200,000 and then up to 2.5 million and over. Those made no sense. Like, so this new breakdown, it makes a lot more sense to the demographics of our customers. So that's the rate that we're proposing, rate increases for the sewer side. I have the rate sheets, and that's pretty much the Reader's Digest version. But the big message on the water side is PFAS, and on the sewer side is our cost to send in on. Because I am factoring in one thing to note, when we renegotiated the Tri-Town agreement 7 years ago, we had a capital reserve in the account. All the towns did. East Lyme had a capital reserve of 1.1 million. Waterford had like 2 million, and New London had 4. I actually wrote the agreement for the most part, and I tried to build in a fluff factor so that there was a floor, and they've been drawing off our money for the last 6 years, and now we're at the floor. So they're going to start calling up anytime and say we want money. So that's where I had to start bumping up the capital amount. And I've worked with Kevin. That's why that 400,000 that we are putting in the budget is going to sweep into a reserve account. So if New London calls, we don't have to dip out of our sewer assessment. We could just send them 100,000. What we'd like to do is just pay the bills directly, so we never give them anything, because Kevin's rate with the STIF is much higher than New London's. I mean, New London's nothing for interests, and so we're not going to send them any money. We'll just pay them the bills. So that's the other portion of the New London side, is factoring in that we're going to have to start paying New London each year for all the projects that they're doing. And it would be the similar motion if you guys would doing a motion to set a public hearing for with the rates as proposed, and that would be to follow the public hearing of the water department.
So do I hear a motion?
Yeah. You know what? I would love to make a motion,
All right, thank you.
if the chair will allow me.
I will.
I would like to move that we set a public hearing on Tuesday, April 28th, immediately following the water rates hearing, which is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. to review these rates as proposed here at East Lyme Town Hall, 108 Pennsylvania Ave.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. We've discussed it, I think, quite a bit. Do we want to discuss it any further? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And it'll be immediately following, right? That's going to be... Chairman's report. Not too much to offer, just that bring the board's attention to the extent that it does affect the water and sewer systems. They are done with the blasting on the 161 I-95 project. So that phase of that project is behind us now. So to the extent, I don't know if we had any repercussions with the sewer or water in that area, but at least we don't have to worry about that anymore. And as far as the budget process, the town budget, it's in the hands now of the Board of Finance, and we're waiting for them to hear from the rest of the departments they want to hear from, and then they'll start the deliberations. And hopefully they pass their budget and we move on to the next phase. Town meeting. Is it a town meeting that comes after that?
2 public hearings.
2 public hearings,
And
then the town meeting. Yep. So that's moving along.
What's the date of the Board of Finance review meeting?
There's a number of dates. They're doing deliberations. Yeah. So
Deliberations start the 31st.
is there one? What's that?
Deliberations are the 31st, and then the 6th of April, and then public hearing is the 20th, and then the 23rd. There's 2 public hearings, one at the high school, one at the senior center.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you. So that's all I have tonight. Staff updates?
Yeah, just keep it brief. That obviously we're getting out of the snow and starting to return to our work as normal. Our stream flows are up, obviously, so we're healthy there. We'll just hope that keeps throughout the summer. Water production continues to be in line pretty much with last year, but is down from previous years. And again, we had talked a little bit about that being an issue where we believe our lost water or unaccounted for water is dropping. So we're billing the same amount of water that we've always billed, and yet we're producing less water. So that's a good thing overall. I was just joking with Joe that we were about 2 million gallons higher this February than last February. But just today we found a house that has been leaking water. It's been about, 1,000 gallons an hour?
2.8 million since
Yep.
early December.
From what?
And this was a house that has radio reception issues,
Where is
so
it?
we just discovered it today.
So it was on their side of the meter?
It was on their side of the meter, yep.
Wow.
They're not home, and I guess they have a crawl space that the
They
water
just-
was flowing out.
I'll have to
Yeah,
look at it
Dart
on my
Street.
street to see if
Yeah,
they're
that's your neighbor,
flooding this.
yeah.
They are flooding the street because I walk the dog every day. if
Wow.
I'm there.
So that makes up the difference in the water production for the month.
Wow.
But it just goes to show, how well the system can work when it's working and how
Are
much
they
maintenance
on
it needs to
an
maintain
electronic
it.
meter?
Yeah, but the reception was bad, and I guess we didn't get a reading for it for a while, so
Jeez.
we need to
Do we
improve
need
that.
to talk to the vendor for that system?
There's a lot of factors that go into it, so I wouldn't say that it's necessarily the vendor's fault.
Forget my ask the question.
Yeah, I could definitely get into more detail on it, but we do have a number of base stations that are around town, and yeah, it's a possibility that we might need a couple more in some areas. Village Crossing is one of them where we have
If you're
to
gonna have
actually
a
do drive
public
around.
portal, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a mistake Eversource has made, okay?
Yeah.
You pump out public information.
And then you don't have the info.
It has to be accurate. You
Yeah.
can't be guessing.
Yeah.
You can't say, I didn't get the information through the meter that day. Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely
Your
right.
communications weren't good in that area. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
Yeah, it all sounds great until it doesn't work the way you
Yeah.
want it
How do
to.
they fix it? They can boost the signal somehow on the
Uh,
region?
we would have to look at it to see if we could put in another base station in the area. They're like control panels that we've mounted in various areas.
Can they communicate, those meters communicate with
Yeah,
those?
yeah, and they seasonally
Fortunately,
they can
with
have different
radio
issues.
waves, it needs a physical path to make it to the station.
So we have our own infrastructure, we're not doing it over cell service.
We are doing. We're doing it from cell service from the base station.
Okay.
But the base,
But the base, the
radio
the meter to the
communications
base.
local. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we're still finding some of these issues, and we're still working through them. I mean, we're finishing the project at this point, but there's still areas that still need to be addressed. But yeah, water production has been at a modest rate, and our sewer has been keeping in line with what we've been seeing recently too. I can tell you that we're starting to see an increase in sewer flows because of the wet weather, but obviously you'll have that report for you in April.
And that's where the metering at our
Yeah.
stations will give you some
Exactly.
kind of, now you start to dial it in.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
is there real infiltration
Right.
problems?
Like you
Yeah.
said, Niantic, Niantic has our master meter that New London bills us off of, and so we can see exactly, and that's what you're seeing in the data is Niantic's meter. But that was really the only meter that was working. The rest either weren't installed properly and didn't work or didn't exist. So Patagonia has one that kind of works all right. Brybrook has one that's pretty lousy because they built a pump station on top of another pump station. They didn't leave any room for the meter to go, so it constantly is getting cavitated flow, and it's not measuring correctly most of the time. So something to work on.
One last operational question about water.
Yeah. love
Any
water.
concern about being in drought so early in the year? Like, how are the stream flow gauges at Bride Lake? And
So we're in good shape. Bride Lake is back to normal for now. The DEP has set up the FISP passage and all that's working as it should. So, like I said, if things hold and we have a good summer, then we'll be fine. But it's right now just too early to tell. I mean, this is typical for us. You know, we're going to see the snow melt. We're going to see a lot of water, you know, go out into the ocean, and hopefully by the time August rolls around, we'll get rain. But yeah, if we go 45 days, 60 days without rain like we have the past couple of years, it's going to be hurting again.
Yeah. Okay. Anything for the sewer? Or you really kind of covered it?
Nothing super notable.
The finance subcommittee?
I think we covered a lot of it,
Yeah.
and we have the minutes. That the
Yep.
commission has any questions, I can go into it.
All right, future agenda items?
I still wait at the bottom
Yeah,
of the list.
still have
I'm
you at the
ready for
bottom, I
capital
know.
project subcommittee, but
We'll get you out
I
there.
appreciate not burning my time, so
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
someday. I know they're coming. We got,
I
you know,
have to look.
PFAS and plants down, so.
Mr. Murphy. He's waiting too.
We okay?
I'm just trying to figure out who's on that list. Yeah.
Oh.
Mr. Murphy,
I think
Mr. Roberts.
there's just two of us now.
Yeah.
Maybe you too?
hey,
Yeah,
shoot,
we
no
lost.
kidding.
What? Well, he's on capacity.
He's also
Oh.
smarter
Yeah,
committee.
we got him on
you
the
know,
sewer.
rates and the,
We said, you've heard of this sewer stuff before.
Mr. DiGiovanni was
Yeah.
the third man that was on the committee.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how long it's been since we set up the committee.
Wow.
We do appreciate your keeping the capital projects going.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really stopped, but now that we are getting through the PFAS proposals, and now we want to start talking about how to deploy the capital on some of these larger projects.
How to think
Because they're
about
coming.
operational contributions to them.
Yeah.
All good. I know you're doing it.
Yeah,
You don't need
yeah.
a committee to help you, but if
Yeah.
you do, reach out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You know, that's why we set it up too, so we should be doing that soon.
Maybe we could put a sub little thing to look at, better electrical rates, you know.
Yeah,
Some money.
I'd love to do that. Joe gets us some pretty good rates. Locks us in.
Oh,
Yeah. And we just hopefully won't get any like force majeure for the fuel costs.
Force majeure.
Yeah. That'd be on fun, right?
I love those.
Yeah.
I love those
I
terms.
couldn't get it through the Strait of Hormuz.
So somewhere, I don't know.
All right. Then are we ready to hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Not gonna do this. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.